Hello and welcome to BHSA Senior School Online Safety Update for Parents. Let me just first introduce myself. My name is Mr. Douthwaite. I'm Assistant Vice Principal, and one of my areas of responsibility is online safety strategy for the whole school. I've produced this video in partnership with Knowsley City Learning Centres. So some of the content is my own, but the vast majority of the content that I'm sharing with you today comes from Knowsley City Learning Centres. We have an annual subscription with Knowsley CLC, and they provide lots of valuable resources to support parents, carers, and schools with online safety issues. Before I go into the details of what's new in the world of online safety and ways that you can support your children, I'm just going to share with you a little experiment that I did with some Year 7 students. Now, this follows on from a conversation I had with a colleague at Belvedere who tried this with a Year 7 class, and I repeated the experiment here. So I asked them a simple question: what makes you happy? So the responses that I were given are typical of what you'd expect for Year 7 students: seeing my friends, my dog, playing football, going on holiday, nothing unusual. It was really interesting to note that what I didn't see, not a single person responded with things like my phone, the internet, Snapchat, social media, anything like that. None of the responses were anything to do with their online life. So that led on to later on, at the end of the lesson, I asked them to do a very quick survey of roughly how long on a typical Saturday are you spending on your phone. So I got, obviously you'd expect, mixed responses there. The highest amount, some were saying that they spend up to 4 hours a day on their phone. So I sort of turned that back on them. I asked them to reflect on this. I said that none of you have said that your phone makes you happy or social media makes you happy, but you're choosing to spend 4 hours a day on it. So it's just something for them to give a little bit of thought to. It also made me reflect on the fact that maybe childhood, if you like, isn't completely lost to this digital world. The things that used to make children happy are clearly still making children happy. So just have a quick look at what children are doing online. So obviously the world that children are growing up in is very different from the world that we grew up in, of course. This brings incredible new opportunities, but also a lot of new risks, as we know. So what are children doing? So we can consider the sort of things that they might be doing online, which is growing by the minute. So we have social media, playing or streaming games, creating or watching video content, and some of the newer apps that we're seeing emerging is students using AI for various reasons. So it doesn't come as a surprise that the news that we see is filled with stories that reflect the worries that parents have, from calls for better online protection, concerns over data privacy, to the risks of grooming and online abuse. Just to give you some idea of the scale of the world, so the scale of the modern day internet use is, if we look at 1 minute of the day, so these are the sort of things that are happening. Google's AI Gemini receives over 8,500 visitors. 3.4 million YouTube videos are viewed. 18.8 million text messages are sent. So this is the immense volume of data and interaction that our children are navigating in this day and age. I'm just going to share some trends with you. A lot of these trends are put together by Ofcom, surveys of parents and children. And just to give you a little overview of how things are changing. Ages 3 to 5, 85% of children using a device to go online, 19% are having their own. Ages 6 to 7, the device use goes up to 96%, with YouTube being the top app for 91% of this group. Ages 8 to 9, 42% now have their own mobile phone. 69% have a social media profile by age 8 to 9. And then we get a huge leap as we get towards secondary school age. 82% now have their own mobile phone, and 100% of them will use a device of some sort to go online. 3 top apps at the moment being YouTube, WhatsApp, and TikTok. The way children interact with online content also evolves. This graph shows that the use of a mobile phone or tablet goes through sharp increases around about the age of 10. So, other trends that we're seeing at the moment, fake news. A significant challenge, especially faced by children, is being able to tell real from fake. In a study, while most 13 to 17-year-olds were confident and able to spot a fake profile, 70% were confident but unable to do so. In another example, 91% recognized a genuine NHS post, but they often relied on indicators like a logo, a verification tick, which are things that can be quite easily faked. Unfortunately, many children encounter upsetting content. So you can see the sort of content we're talking about, and sadly, the fact that we are seeing increases 2004 on things like upsetting experience with others, turning down opportunities to meet with friends so they can stay online, avoiding apps or websites because of how people act on them. They're all up from previous years. So these experiences are reflected in the wider news. Headlines about children's screen time hitting crisis points, government considering social media time limits. These are typical of things that we see in newspapers, that we see on the news almost on a daily basis now. So we can group the risks that children face into 4 main categories. Content risk, exposure to things like fake news, extremism, and pornography. Contact risks, harmful interactions such as bullying, grooming, or exploitation. Conduct risks, the child's own behavior, like sharing private information or being unkind to others. And contract risks, maybe the one that you might not think of as much. So this is exposure to things like phishing scams, online gambling, hidden costs in apps, maybe children agreeing to terms and conditions when signing up for things that they don't really fully understand. So what's in the news? Again, we've looked at some of the news articles already, but we're going to have a little bit more in-depth look at some of the real trends that are affecting young people nowadays. So AI, it's not a future concept. It's here, it's now, and it is posing quite a significant risk for young people. So AI chatbots seem to be the go-to for millions of children, often with very, very little oversight into how these apps are managed and what they are actually doing. Now, if we look at sort of the imagery used, it's clear what sort of age group these apps are marketed at. So AI, it's already here on your phone. If your child has a phone, it's already here on their phone. We have things like Meta AI, Google Gemini, Microsoft Copilot. These are all things that exist already on smartphones. And I think it's very clear who some of these apps are aimed at. This particular one, if you look at the color schemes, the graphic design of it, it's very clearly aimed at younger children, promising a new kind of friends. So yeah. Also a big shift in the use of generative AI. So generative AI, if you're not aware, is the use of artificial intelligence to create something that could be text, it could be an image, it could be video. And in this particular case, it is using generative AI as a chatbot, as responses. So number one use for generative AI at the moment is therapy and companionship. This ranges from getting support for psychological challenges to seeking social and emotional connections. Our children are turning to AI for friendship, which to me is a very worrying step, very worrying development that should never ever go unchecked. Again, another common theme that is appearing in the world of online safety. This shift to digital relationships is happening alongside some worrying real-world trends. So Ofsted has warned that sexual harassment is almost becoming normalised in schools, with many online incidents going unreported because they are becoming so sadly so common. We can't discuss online harm without remembering Molly Russell. She was a 14-year-old who died from an act of self-harm while suffering the negative effects of online content. The inquest found that algorithms on social media exposed her to graphic content relating to suicide and depression, while the coroner said that this influenced her greatly in a negative way. Molly's story is a tragic example of a general term that we could call algorithmic harm. So the algorithm shows us more of what we engage with. This graph shows that a standard teen account can be served an increasing amount of content related to eating disorders and self-harm with just 30 minutes, creating a dangerous downward spiral. So that is within 30 minutes of searching for that content, the algorithm picks that up and it will then provide further content of that nature. So again, an ongoing threat, of course, specific platforms carrying specific risks. NSPCC report identified Snapchat as the most significant app used for grooming, partly due to its features like disappearing messages. You may also have seen in the news that the Online Safety Act is here. It is in place and it is aiming to put more responsibility onto tech companies. We have seen some more rules come into force this year. You may be aware of identity verification checks for adult websites, which came into place in July, but there are still far more features, far more aspects that are going to be addressed by this Online Safety Act to come. So it is definitely a step in the right direction. So what can you do? Just a little summary of ways that you can support your child in this ever-changing digital world. So understanding the world that they grow up in, taking an interest in what they're doing, in the apps and the games that they are using, listening without judgment, leading by example, I think is an important thing. So they see you using digital technology, they see how you interact with it. I think that being aware of that is very important. We can also spin this a little bit more positively. So there are lots of creative and positive activities that pupils, students, children get involved with. The internet's a great tool for creativity, learning new skills, helping with schoolwork, maybe encouraging them to get involved in some of those positive things. Agreeing on boundaries is an important factor here. So agreed, sensible, reasonable boundaries of technology use is really important. Also acknowledging the positives, like we've mentioned before, and not just creativity. So things that promote relaxation, sleep, following a fitness program, or again other really sort of good positive aspects of the online world. Be knowledgeable. There are all sorts of sources out there for support and help. Internet Matters is a particularly good one. I'll mention a little bit more about that later. And NSPCC provide a wealth of resources to support parents and carers there. Practical steps, also accepting the fact that children make mistakes. The most important response is to talk to them about what happens. They're going to do daft things online. It's about creating that environment where they feel safe and able to talk to you about that and tell you anything and ask you for support with that. Testing your home filtering. There are tools out there. Test filtering is a particularly good one because what it does is it's a free tool that will check your home internet settings for you. It will do a sweeping check of how well your home internet filters are blocking things like adult content, harmful content from your children being able to see them. Very useful service called Take It Down, a service that helps remove explicit images of under 18s from the internet, that will support you with that and actually actively take steps to have any images that have been shared removed. Parental controls, vital tool in keeping your children safe online. I'm going to mention Knowsley CLC, who provide a lot of resources for us in producing this video. They have their own set of guides, parental control videos for iOS, for Android, for specific games and for specific social media apps, video guides on how to activate and use parental control settings on there. They also provide a very useful guidebook if you'd like to read through that. So Knowsley CLC, again, providing step-by-step guides on how to use parental controls. A useful app is Google Family Link. Family Link is great for monitoring groups of devices. So if you have multiple children using multiple devices, they can be managed all in one place using Google Family Link, where you can monitor screen time, manage apps, block particular apps, deactivate them at certain times of day. Apple provide a similar sort of Apple Parental Control, a similar app for Apple devices. I've mentioned Internet Matters already. Internet Matters is really useful. It has different categories of support for parental controls. They have sections for social media, for games, for broadband and mobile networks. Choose your device, choose your app, choose your console, and it will walk you through parental control settings for those. There's lots of support out there also for parents and carers, COP, NSPCC, and of course, please get in contact with school if you do have any concerns relating to your child's use of online technology as well. A couple of useful websites already mentioned: Internet Matters, Parent Zone, and UK Safer Internet Centre are also very, very useful sources of help and support. Thank you very much.